Good afternoon and welcome to our Facebook Live broadcast. My name is Steve Altition. I'm the Director of Client Partnerships here at Family Law from Lander Home Family Law. And today I'm with Stefanie Pickard. How are you doing, Stefanie?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Steve.
Well, thank you for coming.
Mm,
Stefanie is a financial advisor with Johnstone Financial, and she's going to be talking about behavioral finance. She's also going to be giving me a quiz to demonstrate how our own life experiences and biases impact our investment choices and financial planning, even our estate planning. But Stefanie, first, let's talk about what behavioral finance is and how it differs from classical financing.
okay. Well, I suppose if you want to say classical finance, you might be getting into modern portfolio theory, which is like, yikes, what does that mean? But really, it's just getting the maximum return for whatever risk that you're willing to take on. So it's very much a money driven thing and really no psychology involved with it really except for the risk factor of it. So the idea being that every investor is going to act perfectly rational and do exactly, stay in the market exactly with their risk tolerance. Whereas behavioral finance knows and studies that people aren't rational and they do irrational things all the time. And so they might not be rational, but they are normal. So they will act irrationally in a predictable way, basically. And so it's sort of like people might, they'll buy life insurance, super rational. They'll also buy a lottery ticket. Maybe not the best investment, right? Uh, so you do both of those things. So they don't always fit together. And so the idea being is that people are predictably biased. And so behavioral finance will go in and it will basically study that and try to figure out how we can best get people back towards that perfect risk reward play. That makes sense.
That makes complete sense. And
Okay, good.
so do these biases just sort of come out of the blue, or there is an origin for those biases, or how do you figure out that they're there?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be a little bit different for everyone as far as how strong they are. It could be based off of, your past life experiences for sure. And it just could be your kind of your general temperament or anything else. There are certain things, men and women are different, older people, younger people, your relationship status, all kinds of things can kind of play into what biases might be stronger or weaker. But yeah, it does fall under a lot of different, there's a lot of background there for sure.
So can these biases affect how people treat their estate planning? I'm assuming that's what happens then.
Their estate planning for sure. Yeah. Or to kind of get to the other area of law for land or home, how they behave maybe in a divorce situation for sure. So these type of biases are not, of course, just limited to finance. It's to everything in life, how you value what you own, how you value what you do, how you use your time, anything like that would definitely play into any of these uh, biases and errors, cognitive errors that people make when it comes to making investments applies to everything, really. So, yeah.
Oh, I like that. So
Okay.
you've got a test for us to take,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
for me to take, and
Yeah, yeah.
we talked about that. And
Uh-huh.
it sort of, is about how my biases, uh,
Uh-huh.
my past experiences may end up affecting how I investigate, how I invest, or how I, plan my finances.
Uh-huh.
And what I'd like to do is invite everyone in the audience, everyone listening, to
Yes.
also take this with me. Now,
Yeah.
um, I've been talking to Stefanie, and this is not a test that she normally gives to clients as much as it's a demonstration,
Yeah.
and she uses it with other financial advisors. It's really it's a tool for her
Mhm.
and to demonstrate what she's talking about today. And so she's going to do that on us. And so, Steph, what do you got to say about that?
Well, I think if you do want to participate at home, then grab a piece of paper. Pen and paper is all you need, real quick. And then I'll explain the rules real quick for you. I'll just mention this is from the Psychology of Investing by John Nofsinger. So I don't want to, this is kind of their work. So I just want to give credit to that. So the idea being is that I'm going to ask you 10 questions, and the answer will be a number, and you're going to give a range. So you want to
I'm
give a
good.
minimum and a maximum. So you have
Minimum
two
and
numbers will be
maximum.
your answer for each one, 1 through 10. And within that range, I want you, Steve, to be 90% confident that the answer lies between that range. Okay?
So if I go 0 to 1,000,000, I'll probably be 100% confident. You want me
Yeah,
to figure out
yeah.
the sweet spot of 90%?
So yeah, it's a sweet spot of
Okay.
90%. So if you're pretty unsure, then you should probably make a pretty wide range. But if you're pretty confident, then maybe a little bit more narrow range. You want to hit about 90% sure.
There you
That makes
go.
sense? All right.
It makes total sense.
All
I
right.
have nothing else. I do have confidence,
Okay.
whether it's going to be
Your
worked out.
knowledge on these topics. Okay, you're going to be like, what in the world is she talking about? But
What
here
in
we
the world?
go. Here we go.
Okay,
With question
I'm
number
ready.
1, pen and paper, 90% range. Number 1
90%.
question. What is the average weight in pounds of an adult blue whale? No
Of
cheating.
an adult blue whale.
Yeah.
It's big.
Yeah.
Okay. The average weight
90%.
in pounds, and I want to be 90% certain, and I'm going to give you a range.
Uh-huh.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm going to write that. I don't tell you yet. I take it.
Yeah, you don't have to tell me. We'll give you the score. We'll give you all the answers at the end. Then you'll score it.
Okay. And
So
then I'll
yeah.
tell you what I wrote down. I've
Yeah.
been writing
Yeah.
down a number that I
Minimum
am
and a maximum.
90% confident with. And okay.
All right, number 2. In what year was the Mona Lisa painted by Leonardo da Vinci?
Oh, the Mona.
So minimum year, maximum year.
Okay. If I get this wrong, my wife's going to kill me. I should.
Okay. Yeah, it is. They are general knowledge questions, so you might be able to hit on some. All right.
To go there.
Okay. Sounds like you're ready for number 3 already.
I am ready.
Number 3. How many independent countries were members of the United Nations in 2017? Independent countries, members of the UN, 2017.
Independent countries, members of the UN, 1917 or 2017?
No, sorry, 2017. Yeah.
2017.
Yeah, gosh, that would be hard. Yeah.
It wasn't when they went around in 1917.
Right. Well, there's that too. Yeah, of course.
I got a number down.
Okay. All right. Number 4. What is the air distance in miles between, so as the crow flies, between Paris, France, Sydney, Australia?
Paris, France to Sydney, Australia.
Yeah.
Air distance.
Yeah.
In miles.
A range.
Okay,
minimum,
I'm
maximum,
say,
90% range.
I'm
I get
not
the feeling you might do well
confident
here.
now,
Okay.
I'm writing a narrow number.
Okay. Okay, number 5. How many bones are in the human body?
How many phones?
Bones.
Oh,
sorry.
good, because I have one with me, but it's not in my body.
How many bones are in your pocket right now, Steve?
Oh
Yeah.
my God. My toes got like a 50, doesn't it? Okay, hold it. I'm going to write down a number.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Number 6. We're doing well. We're halfway through. How many total combatants, so from any nation, were killed in World War I?
Oh.
Kind of a sad question, but yeah, certainly a sad question.
Okay.
Okay, number 7. How many items, so books, manuscripts, microphones, or microforms, sheet music, anything, were listed in the U.S. Library of Congress at the end of 2016? Whew. So basically, kind of like how many books were in the Library of Congress, but it's really way more than books. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, we're doing great. Number 8. How long in miles is the Amazon River?
How long in miles is the Amazon River? With
River.
all the twisting and turning?
Right? Yeah.
Okay.
Oh. See why I don't do this to clients? You see, I only do this to my colleagues, not clients. Yeah. I don't want to make them feel bad about general knowledge
I'm going to
questions.
say there's that many to that many.
Okay. All right, what are we up to here? Number 9. Oh, I like this one. I love this.
Oh,
I love that I know this now because I've done it so many times. How fast does the Earth spin in miles per hour at the equator? So, how fast is it moving?
Okay, hold on, hold
Range,
on. I should be able to
90%.
figure this out. Give me 2 seconds.
Okay.
I'll figure this out. 25,000 in 24 hours. How many miles per hour?
Miles per hour, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to write this one really narrow.
Oh, okay, all right, all right. You're pretty confident.
Well, not totally. Okay.
All right, and last question of this, how many earthquakes per year on average does the National Earthquake Information Center locate and publish globally? So basically, how many earthquakes on average are there in a year? It's kind of a simpler way of putting that.
This is a huge number.
Right, it's a range. Minimum,
Yeah,
maximum,
I understand.
90% confident. Yeah.
It's a huge range. I'm going to say, hold it. I'm going to say this one I may be off so bad.
Yeah. So you don't have to tell me your answers. We just figured that we would go through and you can tell me how many you got right.
Answers.
Okay.
I'm
All
going to
right.
know if I'm right or wrong.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, yeah. Your results.
By a
Your
lot.
overall results. Okay. All right. You ready for the answers?
Okay, I'm ready.
Yeah. This one usually blows everybody away. Number one, the whale.
Oh, hold on. The first one is how big is a whale?
Is a whale.
I had 70,000 to 90,000 pounds.
250,000 pounds.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh.
I think I missed that one.
Wrong. Right. Okay. Number two. Hopefully you'll get this one. The year was 1513.
I wrote 1500 to 1515.
Whoa. You took 1515?
Yeah.
You wrote 1500 to 1515. That is a very narrow range, and you got it.
That one I was kind of confident in.
Wow, that is awesome. Good for you. You do know that. All right, number three, the UN question. 193 countries.
That was 105 to 125.
Okay, yeah. little under.
Yeah.
All right, number four is the Paris to Sydney is 10,000. It's 10,543 miles.
Oh, it was 11,000 to 14,000.
Oh, you were so close.
Missed it by that.
Yeah. Okay.
1 for 4.
Yeah, 1 for 4. Okay, all right. Number 5, 206 bones.
I was 150 to 170.
Oh, okay.
I was off.
A little low. All right. Oh, this one is rough. Number 6 is the World War I question. 8.3 million people.
I said 10 to 20 million.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. So you were a little up. You were getting closer to World War II, I think. Yep. I don't know. That's not what my area of expertise. Number 7. This one's tough. The Library of Congress, 164 million items.
Ouch. I said 140 to 150 million.
Oh, okay. All right.
Off.
But off, but close,
Yeah.
Okay. Number 8, the Amazon River, 4,000 miles.
I said 7 to 9,000.
Okay. All right. A little long. All right.
I'm going for 8.
All right. Number 9 is 1,044 miles per hour.
I had 1,000 to 1,250.
Oh, okay.
I got that one.
You got it. All right. Yeah, you got that right in the range. Okay, nice. And the last one, such a wild guess, the earthquakes, is 20,000.
Oh my God, I had 1 million to 1.5 million.
Oh my God. Wow. So what'd you get?
I got 2.
You got 2. All right, not bad. My office, I did my whole office. I think our high score around here was 3. So if that makes you feel any better. So the idea being though, is that you should have got 9. Because you should have been 90, you should have got 9 out of 10. You should have been 90%, sure, right? Or you should have got 90%.
90% sure.
And so guess what? Guess what? Really, even people that they're statisticians might only get 5 out of 10 in this, And it's the idea being behind this is that you have no knowledge on this topic. But you think you know about it, right? And so people, they think way too much. They think they know too much. They think they know more than other people. But people have a lot of difficulty analyzing, processing large numbers, and they're overconfident about things that they don't know about. So the last quick question, kind of
Okay.
a number 11 as it relates to
Uh-oh.
the market. I tie this back into investing. Okay, so Ian, it's a little bit longer, but in 1928, the Dow Jones Industrial Average began with 30 stocks. In 1929, it was valued at 300. Okay. At the end of 2016, it was valued at 19,787. Okay, so from 300, 1977. Okay, the Dow is a price-weighted average, but dividends are omitted. Okay,
Okay.
so what would it have been if dividends were reinvested? So from 300, what would it have been in 2016?
Okay. Okay. Hold on. I'm gonna guess.
You have a 90% range for that?
Oh my God. Okay. Hold it. Hold it. I'm thinking of the rule of 72.
Yeah. Oh, good. All right. Yeah.
So I'm gonna go that there's been 10. Oh my gosh. 300, 600, 1200, 2400, 4800, 600. I'm gonna go 60,000.
60,000. Okay, so the actual answer would have been 613,514. But if you think about it in a different way, so that sounds enormous, right? But the idea is that actually over 88 years, that's just over a 9% return.
Right.
So, if you frame it that way, much more reasonable. But so even after I gave you that whole quiz about how you didn't know anything and
I
really tried to
still,
stick it to you, you still were like way off. And so that's the idea, is that people still, even if they're aware of it, they get in their own way, understanding these type of things. And so it's kind of a weird yet connectable way of saying, of explaining what goes in behind the psychology of trying to help investors stick to their
yeah,
plan, basically. Yeah, yeah. It's to say, hey, you don't know anything. That's why I don't give it to clients, because I don't want to actually really show them.
but it's okay with me.
Right. Yeah. But, well, you agreed to it. So, yeah.
Well, then what happens, just kind of as a side before we kind of move on,
Yeah.
then,
Yeah.
if you give this to, I mean, let's say a married couple again, or
Mm-hmm.
if you give this to two people who are married or just friends,
Yeah.
not, and they have, odds are they're going to have widely different answers too between
Sure.
each other. I mean,
Yeah.
they're the sort of conflict is sort of built in and hard to kind of get rid of
Yeah.
that, because everyone has their own biases, everyone has their own different experiences. so
Absolutely.
so what causes this? I mean, why don't we behave rationally? I mean, the fact that we don't, and we do, like, inflate things and deflate things, but what's the cause of it? I mean, what are some causes of it?
Well, why don't I, get into some of examples. This is a really broad topic, but I kind of honed in on a few examples that I thought of that could be interesting and kind of people could connect with to kind of understand a little bit more. So the first bias and error that I would say that people make, especially when it applies to so many things, but investment in particular, that I think a lot of people would understand, is loss aversion. So you've experienced a loss, you invested, even just super recently, the market, of course, went totally crazy in March and went down so much. Well, say you were just, I'm losing all my money, and you pull out, and then you sold at the bottom. And then, then it comes to getting back into the market. You're thinking, I lost so bad, or even in an individual stock, I bought this stock and then it went down so much or something like that. And they're feeling, they're going to stay away from that forever. You get people that won't, despite their best interest, they won't get in the market. They won't get in a particular position. I'll only invest in, I won't invest in equities. It's only, fixed income, things like that, just because they're so averse to that loss that they've experienced in the past. It's a little bit like being bit by a snake or something like that, like yikes, and then they won't go back there. So, and I think that kind of parallels with a lot of things that you guys do there at
Yeah.
Landerholm as
Well,
well.
I
Yeah.
was thinking that. I mean, because loss aversion is it's not just, well, I had a bad marriage or I got a divorce and so I don't want to get married again
Right.
because I thought it was going to be great and it didn't turn out that way.
Right.
Also, though, do you find potentially that people who have loss, but not necessarily a loss in a stock, but
Uh-huh.
have experienced loss
Yeah.
and great disappointment, let's say in a marriage that they thought would last forever and didn't. I
Uh-huh.
mean, is it possible to carry that bias to other areas such as the willingness to take risks in an investment?
Absolutely. I think it can kind of shape your entire outlook. So beyond investing or money management or anything like that, but anything that comes from outside of money management could certainly be brought in, and vice versa. So yeah, absolutely.
It would seem like it'd be a good, maybe a practice of people who have experienced loss, and before they go run out and change their own investment portfolio, maybe they should talk to someone who kind of understands what's going on.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
That's what you think.
Absolutely. Well, and then certainly knowledge could help. Being more just really presented with a lot of facts, and there's certainly ways of kind of overcoming that with people to say, uh, you know, hey, you don't earn enough money. No, basically, no one earns enough money to be able to just retire with cash. You've got to take some risk.
Yeah.
To be you've got to be able to take some risk with that money in order to earn more in order to retire, or save for lots of things, even college or a house or anything. You might need to eventually take some risk with that money besides just hoarding it in cash. And so being presented with some cold facts about that could certainly help somebody. So kind of arming them with knowledge. um, and kind of the other side of that to loss aversion would be overconfidence. And you'd see that too. And that's really just kind of like people think that their knowledge is better than others, kind of really like what we were getting back there with the quiz. That really leans itself towards, um, that really leans us towards overconfidence. Obviously, you're overconfident that something's going
Right.
to fall in that range. Yeah. But then you really think that you know better than other people do, that you're really clever, rather than smart. It's clever, um, but even things like, as a non-financial side of things, like there's studies where they say, okay, I'm going to flip this coin. What are the chances of heads? What are chances of tails? 50-50, right? Easy.
Right. Right.
But then you say, well, what if I told you that this coin has been tails like 10 times in a row? Well, still 50-50. But it biases people. They think, maybe it's going to be tails, you know, and that kind of leads towards this overconfidence. Well, I know a little bit more. I have this insider information or whatever. No, you don't know, and so that's kind of another one that we see. We see it with clients where they'll say, well, I played the market really well before once. I'm going to play it well again. And, that might have been okay for them back then, but now they're retired. They shouldn't take on as much risk or something like that. So it doesn't fit in with their plan.
Well, I totally get that. So
Okay.
we do have a question that's come in.
Oh,
I
okay.
want
Yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
it kind of gets back more to your loss aversion one,
Okay.
and the question basically is, well, how do you know if you can trust your financial advisor? How do you know that your financial advisor is trustworthy
Hmm.
um, after you've experienced and lost confidence because of a loss? I mean,
Hmm.
how do you handle that when someone
Uh,
is even worried about getting advice from you?
right. No, that seems totally reasonable. And that really goes towards, that advisor maybe should be working really hard to gain your trust, for in a lot of ways. They should be sitting on the same side of the table as you. That's for sure. You should be seeing somebody that is clearly working with you. They're a fiduciary. They only have your best interest in mind. On the other side of that is that they're super qualified. There's different ranges of qualifications out there. Everyone, this isn't necessarily a plug, but everyone that here works at Johnstone is a certified financial planner as an advisor. That's a really rigorous program that is a large hurdle for people to pass through. And then, of course, the CFP board, holds us to a particular standard that's more broad than others. So that would be another really important thing to look for. A lot of people out there that are CFPs are definitely would say that that's really the minimum qualification. So qualifications and just somebody that's clearly on your side. So really vetting somebody that's super interested in taking a large amount of time to get to know you, to get to know your situation, your goals, everything, before they ever even try to engage you in a client relationship. It would be a really good way to, build trust and know that somebody's going to understand how you feel. And I guess also if you're just willing to, if you feel comfortable approaching somebody, I have this loss aversion, I have whatever else, and they're going to react in a positive way. Let's work within that. That's going to be good too. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that makes complete sense. I mean, it's like we kind of talked about, it's the fact that you are really an expert and this whole idea of behavioral finance, which you are. You see that. I mean, it's not like your response would be, well, how dare you not trust me?
No, yeah.
Because I know a lot of people that would act that way.
Right. Yeah. I have to win your trust, certainly. Yeah. So, and in so many ways, and one of it would just be throughout the relationship, continue to win the trust of the client as well. So yeah, well, that's a great question.
Wow.
So thank you.
Oh, yeah. So, okay.
It was perfect. Yeah. Yeah.
What's the next kind of barrier?
All right, I really like this one. Either it's called the status quo or the endowment bias. And it's basically people overvalue the things they already own. So this could obviously go with stocks. I already have this portfolio. This goes exactly into estate planning because there's been studies about if you inherit something that's already invested in a certain way, you're more likely to keep it that way. Whereas it may have been, that whole investment was based off of somebody else. It was their goals, their life cycle, potentially a much older person than the person that's inheriting it. So they need to completely revamp how that account might be invested. But that status quo bias will hang on. And it also goes to, individual possessions. Somebody in a divorce might, hang on to the house because they value it more.
Even though there's a better split, they've been there for years.
Right. The economics might not make any sense to keeping the house, but they're hanging on to it. Well, there's a really strong bias. I think all of us can really understand that. That makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely. And I know people who have in their wills, sort of basically said, I'm leaving this item to John, but John, you can't get rid of it. Because it's just boxed with what you've got and you don't want to see it changed.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I totally can see it. I think it plays into everything. Oh, that's a big one to me. That really means a lot to me. Personally, I see it. I'm like, oh yeah, if I already own this, then I want to keep it and I want to do. Yeah.
My wife says I've got shirts from 30 years ago I still wear, and I like them. I should probably throw them away.
They look good on you, They fit, they're all worn in,
So what else is blocking us from making that?
I like this one, cognitive dissonance. So this is the idea that your brain is this discomfort with a contradiction. So like, and you're real smart, you know everything, but then you think of a time when you didn't. And that yucky feeling, or like you're lying in bed at night and you think you're a really nice person, but you remember something kind of off-putting that you said to somebody and you really cringe. I feel it was like a kind of a cringy thing.
Yeah.
And that can play into investing. You made this decision, you thought you knew what was right, and then yikes. And what it does is it has this paralyzing effect where you don't make any decision. You just sit on things. You don't change anything. You don't, or you blame somebody else, you push it off of you because you don't like the way that feels.
I mean, that's another one that kind of right in the wheelhouse. So hold on, we have another question.
Okay, great.
And this I think goes back to a little bit to the overconfidence question, and is basically the question is, if someone is, and excuse me, I'm kind of looking close to read it. If someone is interested in investing money, whether day market, whether through the day trading or market, doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
But what are the benefits of doing that themselves? Why should they hire a financial advisor?
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of
Mm-hmm.
gets back to the why I don't know, how many earthquakes there are.
Right, sure. Yeah. I mean, I think of a financial advisor more than anything is going to be able to think much more broadly as far as your full financial picture. So I even had somebody say to me once, they were like, why would you study insurance when aren't you a financial planner? Well, insurance is an enormous part of your financial plan, or estate planning, or tax planning. So what we do, especially as financial advisors, is we're going to incorporate your whole life, and then also just, all of the psychological stuff, the behavioral finance, your risk reward, everything like that. Is an enormous advantage versus trying to kind of go out there on your own, would be my answer as to why you need a financial advisor.
I've used this before, a true story, but it kind of comes back to mind when my wife was having her first baby. We were there. And I was there, obviously. She was there, obviously. I was there too. And the doctor, baby comes out. Our daughter is born, and the doctor turns to me and says, "Do you want to cut the umbilical cord?" And I'm looking around at a doctor and 3 nurses, and all I can think of is, well, somebody here's got to be more qualified.
Right. Yeah. 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 No. Exactly. No. It helps to have a knowledgeable person on your side that's kind of taking in, is not only kind of maybe thinking outside of where your head might be, and it's trying to help you that way. But then it's also kind of taking in really the big picture is super helpful. So yeah.
Yeah.
The next one I really like, mental accounting, which you're like, well, what is that? This I
Yeah,
kind
what
of
is
think,
that?
yeah, what is that? What is that? Okay, so how you associate the reward of consuming. So think retail therapy. That's one way of kind of thinking at it. With the cost. So how you're rewarded by that consumption versus the cost of what it is. And how this kind of plays out in kind of an example, because I think an example works out best, is would you rather prepay for a vacation or pay for it after you get back? And most people, what do you say? What would you answer?
I would prepay for it.
Yeah.
Because then
Most
it's
people,
free.
most people would prepay, whereas it actually kind of, if you're thinking of time value of money and you really want to get into it, would make more sense to pay for it afterwards
Yeah.
because you're hanging on to the money longer. And if there's any risks with the vacation, it gets canceled or whatever else, maybe you have more recourse if you paid for it afterwards or something like that. And so, but so it doesn't really make sense. But almost everyone says, well, I'd rather prepay for it because I don't want to have to think about the pain of paying for it. That takes away from my enjoyment of consuming it. Does that make sense?
That would make complete sense. And even above that, to me at least, if we used to, get Blazer tickets, for season tickets.
Yeah.
And you pay for 8 months before a game. And by the time you're going to games, they feel like they're free.
Right. Yeah.
And there's a sort of, joyous feeling like that. I'm wondering though, if that may be changing at least temporarily right now with COVID, because that goes back to loss. There's been a lot of financial loss,
right,
with people who have not been able to do their vacations or
sure, yeah.
That's interesting.
People might be rethinking that of like, oh man, I prepaid for it. I would just scramble, and it was such a hassle to get a refund. I was on the phone, with the company for 3 hours or whatever, for sure. Well, it's funny that you mentioned the tickets because that kind of goes into our next one, the sunk cost effect, which is the idea that you already paid for something and you're letting that, this expense that's gone, letting that affect your current decisions or your current financial decisions. And so say you bought tickets, and then you heard that you got all these tickets, and then you heard that Lillard's out tonight, right? And it's raining, and all this stuff, right? And you're like, it's horrible weather, and you get all the way up to the Rose Quarter and all that jazz, And so if you got the tickets for free, would you be more likely to go or not?
Exactly. I would
It
be
shouldn't make
more
any
likely to
difference.
go if I had to pay for them.
But if you had to
Even though
pay
it
for it,
makes
you're
no
way more
difference.
likely. Yeah, you were
Yeah.
more, but it makes no difference. You're much more likely to go. Also, if you had just bought the tickets, you're more likely to go than if you
Yep.
bought them a long time ago. Yeah.
Yep.
So it's kind of a time thing and a money thing. So that's kind of an interesting one as far as that goes. Those are kind of my examples of
Yeah.
all these. Yeah, there's so many. There's so many. We could go forever, but those are kind of what I picked that made sense for this presentation. So
Well, and
yeah.
in the end, that kind of leads back to, people with family conflict, and
Mhm.
when you're trying to divide, and if you're trying to divide up, a marital estate, well, I paid X for this. Well, that doesn't mean it's worth X now.
Yeah.
The historical costs are, I know in economics, are a big no-no. I mean, you just don't consider them.
Yeah, yeah. No, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. So now, um, we've been talking about this, and it was behavioral finance, super interesting subject, hard to initially kind of get your head about what it is until
Great.
I can actually listen to it from you.
Okay.
Um, and so, I'm thinking to myself, well, okay, you're going to listen and you're going to go in there and build a plan for somebody. You're going
Mhm.
to start one up. That's part of what this is. You
Absolutely. Yeah.
somehow, that's what you do. But and that's what so I was going to ask you a question. Well, how do you put behavioral finance, into practice?
Hmm. Hmm.
And you kind of said, well, Steve, it's not necessarily just about building a plan. It's about staying on a plan. It's
Great.
about
Yeah.
implementing a plan. And
Hmm.
so
Yeah, it's about helping people build a plan for sure. And it could definitely, you're going to want to, I might really think about a client. Oh, they value this so much. We're never going to touch the Boeing stock because he worked at Boeing forever. And I know,
right,
okay, status quo. There it is. We're hanging on to it, but I know it. And it's okay because it's not derailing the plan, or we have to have this really hard conversation because it is derailing the plan. There's
right,
just not enough diversification here. It's a real concern. You're too tied up in Boeing or something like that. It's just an
yeah,
example. Yeah, so developing a plan, sticking to a plan, and then as I'm working with a client, being aware of any of these disconnects. I see it all the time. Definitely loss aversion, definitely overconfidence when it comes to talking to clients. I did this before and it's going to work this time, things like that. And so it's like this understanding it and then gently moving from that place of, I understand where you're coming from. You're wrong, but you're not abnormal. and then moving them towards, having those conversations of presenting with facts, all kinds of things that you can use to combat these biases with clients, is where you get that implementation.
yeah. It's you said kind of the phrase that I was thinking is, because you're not being rational doesn't mean you're not being normal. Or
Great.
even necessarily not being wrong. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
what you are. It's
Yeah.
part of, and it's the difference, going back to, what I consider traditional. It's not just the X's and the O's.
Hmm.
It's you're the Y and Z,
Right.
that kind
Yeah.
of goes
Yeah.
into it.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so that kind of leads to we kind of talked about this, and we put it out in our Facebook kind of tidbits, because it kind of makes to an interesting question, and the question sort of being, can then happiness is your goal, can money really buy happiness? Maybe it can. I don't know.
Yeah. I think that we can use some of these biases to make ourselves happier, to buy happiness a little bit. And going back a little bit to what we talked about just a little bit earlier, when we talked about um, this mental accounting,
Yeah,
and some of the sunk cost things and stuff like that, kind of using those to your advantage. What makes you happier when it comes to the vacation? You know what it is. It might not be the right financial decision, but boy, it makes you a lot happier to prepay for that vacation. So yeah, other things like, a lot of people know this, buy experiences rather than material things, because you have that lovely memory of the experience that you can
Yep.
relive over and over again, whereas the material thing, the shiny car, kind of becomes part of the background a little
Yep.
bit more. So that'd be kind of something that you can, it's not necessarily always the best economic decision, but it is definitely like the best behavioral finance decision to make. Buying, going with buying experiences than buying smaller experiences, multiples of them rather than one big one, so you have
Yep.
more enjoyment of that. And yeah, prepaying for things, and then consuming it later. So you have that lovely anticipation of maybe saving up for a vacation. That's part of it. You have that anticipation of everything leading up to it is all this enjoyment. You have this thing in your mind that it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, and you can enjoy it then, and then you can enjoy it afterwards because it was an experience. And then finally, just using your money to help others. So donating more locally tends to have more impact with people. A local organization that is impacting the local community, people that buying things for people, buying gifts, using your money to help others is another really wonderful way of buying happiness.
Oh, and I think you're not just buying happiness, you're buying happier families.
Yeah, yeah.
I think we talked about this 30 years ago, heard this, or 40 years ago, heard this, and I still use it almost every day. And it's sort of, you buy your memories and you rent your stuff.
Yeah.
It kind of, you are buying happiness in that kind of respect.
Mm-hmm.
So this has been great, Stefanie. This has really been good. Are there
Good.
any other kind of issues we should touch on, or that we should go back and revisit? I mean, I think
Yeah.
it felt to me like it really hit the point. This really hit the point of what behavioral finance is, which was my first question to you.
Sure.
And what I did not know before, I know a little bit more about now.
Right. Yeah. I think that it hopefully kind of explains it. The quiz is kind of a fun way it connects. So I think that maybe, hopefully, even people that watch this later will maybe be able to get out a pen and paper before they hear the answers, just to kind of test yourself, just to see, oh man, I really don't know numbers like I thought I did, or something. So,
Yeah.
It's fun and interesting topic for sure, but then it also applies to not only your financial life, but your life in general. I think that's really cool.
It absolutely does. All right. I'm being told we're running out of time. So
Yes, I
thank
think
you
so.
so much. This was just really, really good. And I
Of
think
course.
it was helpful on a lot of levels.
Good.
And so also, I'm going to say goodbye, but not yet. First, I'm going to, invite everyone listening hopefully enjoyed our broadcast, to comment, to let us know. If you have any issues that you would actually like us to talk about in the future, please feel free to email me, Steve. I'm steve@landerhomelaw.com. Once again, I'm the director of client partnerships at Lander Home Law, who's presenting this series of Facebook Lives. And I'd be happy to take your issues and look at them for making a broadcast later. Also, if there's anyone out there who would like to be a guest, again, shoot me an email. That would be great. And I always want to tell people that we also have a podcast series called Modern Family Matters. In fact, Stefanie has a podcast on there, which is either on now or going on very soon, called Financial Therapy, which is sort of the other rounded side of the coin of what we talked about today. And I encourage you to go to look at our podcast series. You can find out about it on our Facebook page, on Instagram, at the Apple Store, and we'd love it if you'd support those. So until next time, everyone stay safe, everyone stay happy, everyone stay healthy, and enjoy the day. Goodbye.